Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to a joint venture between HomeGauge and the National RV Inspectors Association. This is Terry Cooper, and I serve as the president of the NRVIA. And with us this afternoon, we've got Russell Buchanan with us. We've got Bob and Sally Nielsen, who are some managers that work with NRVIA. And we also have in the background Steve Anderson, who serves as one of our directors for NRVIA. Mr. Anderson is going to be answering questions and so on that's we'll have, those of these that you present them. As part of the housekeeping, I'm going to recommend that you take a look at your little box that popped up. There's a little place for questions. The key in the questions that you may have, and Mr. Anderson will try to respond to them as quickly as possible. And there may be some that he may choose to bring out and let us share with the group in general. So with that being said, we'll just go ahead and get started here. Like I say, it's not going to take long, but there's some things we wanted to show the home inspectors of what opportunities are available to them that they can increase their inspector income. And let's see here. I don't know if you guys have ever met Russell Buchanan. That's him in the black shirt on the right-hand side. Russell, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I am, Terry. Thank you for giving us a chance to talk about HomeGauge and NRVIA. So I just wanted to talk to my inspectors use HomeGauge, and I really am excited about this opportunity, and I think that RV inspections is new and upcoming, and I really am pleased that HomeGauge is going to be a part of it. And that's what this webinar is all about. I got to meet Terry and Steve and some of the others, and Bob and Sally, and they really have a great program together. They've got training in place. There is a demand, even in your local area. There's a bunch of campgrounds in your area where people that are retired and usually financially secure are traveling, and they stop and they go into these campgrounds, and they need repairs and technicians that can help them fix things. And at the same time, they need oil samples and coolant samples. And there's a bunch of dealerships and local people that are wanting to sell their RV. And while it seems like a really good similar inspection, you certainly can take your skill level with you into RV inspections. There's a few other technical aspects that makes an RV inspection, in my opinion, even more detailed than a home inspection. And that's where their training comes involved. And with the economy and people buying these RVs, there's a real need for a professional inspector to be able to inspect recreational vehicles. And that's what this webinar is about, is putting HomeGauge users in touch with Terry Cooper, an expert in this field, and Steve and Bob and Sally. And I'm just pleased to help make this connection and feel flattered that they've chosen our software to perform these inspections. So, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this webinar and what Terry and Steve have to say.
Thank you, Russell. What really came of this conversation is that the National RV Inspectors Association was looking for state-of-the-art software that we could use in our RV inspections. So you guys would understand this better than anybody else. Basically, an RV inspection is nothing more than a home inspection on an RV. It's not a vehicle inspection for, like, the state, where you put the state sticker on it or anything like that. This is actually looking at an RV from the standpoint of, is it safe? Is it habitable? What kind of condition is it in? Just the very same things that you guys do already in the home. It's just that, we've got to realize that these RVs are basically a city on wheels, because we've got 3 separate electrical systems. We've got propane, we have water as well as sewer, got all the appliances, and of course all of that's jam-packed inside a box, and it could be mounted on a motorhome frame or it could be mounted on a trailer. So what we have here is just basically taking a home inspection and putting it on steroids is really what it boils down to be. Now, this is my picture. Like I say, I serve as the president of the National RV Inspectors Association. Also, I own a small company called Mobile RV Academy. My wife and I travel all over the country. We'll probably put this next year between 25 and 30,000 miles on our vehicle, pulling an RV around, doing training at dealerships and campgrounds and so on. And then we have a couple here called Bob and Sally Nielsen. Bob, Sally, are you guys with us tonight?
Yes, we are. We're here.
Okay. Well, we'll be calling on them here in a little bit, but basically Bob and Sally are what we call IMTs, Inspector, Manager, and Trainers. They've been with us from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, I think Bob is in one of our very first classes, and within, I won't say, what was it, within 3 or 4 months, Sally, you were jumping right in the middle of it.
Yep.
So both of these guys are certified RV inspectors. So they've done it, they've been there, they have been all over these RVs, and now they're training. They not only train the individuals who are coming in to get what we call the basic training, but they also handle a great deal of our advanced training for some other type of inspections. I'm going to show you those things today. I want to show you what's going on in the industry, how there's different levels of inspections as well as different levels of inspectors. Now, something, we always want to go back up and say, okay, what's going on? What's driving this? Well, in today's world, we've got a little over 12 million RVs out here running around all over the highway. And then you start throwing in all these boomers, these baby boomers, and you look at, 10 to 12,000 of them are retiring every day. And then we've got the millennials. Their children and their grandchildren are coming along behind them. So what's happened is this market has exploded to the point that really we've got people all over the place that are getting into the RV lifestyle, whether they're doing it as a vacation or maybe some people are saying, hey, I'm going to be part-time and I'm going to travel and see the country, or we have a lot of folks that are even doing this full-time. And so the RV Industry Association, what we call RVIA, has just, as a matter of fact, I was reading it today, they were talking about, they're getting the final numbers in. It looks like 2016 is going to be the best year they have ever had. And the RV industry has been in play a little over 100 years, so that tells you a lot as far as their ability to track. And now they're beginning to forecast that 2017 is going to be bigger because of what they're looking at with the economy. After this election's calmed down and everybody kind of knows what's going to happen, or at least they kind of feel like we've got a good handle on things, good, bad, or indifferent, at least we know what we're up against. And so what we're seeing is they're expecting 2017 to have other record sales. So when you figure like 2016 where they dropped over 400,000 new RVs on the market, what that did is that flushed out a lot of used ones that people were trading in. And that's the cream for us. That's where our work is taking a look at those used units, whether it be for a buyer or maybe someone who's going to sell it, or even for dealerships doing their certified pre-owned. Because a weird thing that we have found out is that over 60% of the used RVs that are sold in here in North America are sold from one person to another. In other words, they're not even going through a dealership. So what's happening is a lot of folks are buying used RVs on a hope and a prayer that it's good shape, or maybe the guy kind of, told them a story and maybe crossed his fingers and winked at the same time. But what we're finding is not everything that they're being told is true. Just like buying a house, just because it's on the market doesn't mean that it's not a money pit, because sometimes there are those. So what we're seeing here is a rapid need for inspectors to look at these RVs. Now, like I say, there's so many similarities between an RV and a home. However, there's some differences, and that's really what we wanted to visit with you about, to see if this is something that you could take your current skill as a home inspector and parlay that into becoming an RV inspector to kind of supplement what you're already doing. And quite honestly, because of where you are and the background that you have, the training that you already have what they need. I mean, because what's happening is that you have the ability to fast track, because you don't have to be taught how to inspect. You already know how to be systematic. You already know the importance of not missing things and starting from one end and being very, very thorough. But what we have done is we have come up with some systems. For the last 3 years, we have spent a great deal of time and money building templates, building procedures, building the format so that way we can bring somebody into the industry and get them up to speed very quickly. In today's world right now, we have in the neighborhood of we have a need for about 1,800 inspectors across the country. And that's probably a little conservative, but that's kind of our goal right now is 1,800. And currently, people that are climbing on roofs and getting into these RVs and checking things out, we've got a little over 370 plus out there right now. We've trained more than that, but what happens is like it is with home inspections, some people are here and then they have to take furlough, spend time with their family, and they'll be back. Or some of them, maybe something happened, they had to retire, or maybe they come off the road or whatever. But for whatever reason, we can pretty well track what's going on across the United States, and we pretty well tell about 370 plus inspectors right now moving around. Now, when we got into this thing, we just thought it was going to be a little boutique business. We really did. We thought it was going to be this little business that we could kind of, help some folks kind of earn some money on the side. These people called work campers that maybe travel around to different campgrounds, and maybe they'll spend 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year working at this campground, and they move someplace else, and they'll work a little bit there. What we didn't realize is that the need was so great because of people buying these RVs, and maybe they were snowbirds today, but when the snow thaws up home, then they go home, and then all of a sudden they realize that, you know what, we need to buy an RV, we need to get somebody to look at it for us. Just like what you guys do when you come across somebody who's looking to buy a home. Now, we know what happened in the industry when you guys got started. It was a tough hoe sometimes because until the banks and the insurance companies realized that you as an inspector brought value to the table because you helped these people from getting into a money pit. Well, it's the exact same thing here with these RVs, because what happens is an RV inspector shows up just like you do, and you have, I'm going to use that term, you have no dog in the fight. You're there to be as unbiased as possible, to look at it, determine what kind of condition it is, not to repair it, but to look at it and give a judgment on whether this needs some repair, or this was going to be functioning correctly, or this up to code and things like that. So the things that you folks involved with in home inspection is the same thing that those of us that are doing the inspections are encountering as well. Now, there's two different types of inspections that we deal with. A level 1 inspection is typically for a bank, credit unions, but the big market for us is the extended service agreement companies. And it hasn't been that long ago that a person who bought an RV could only get an extended service agreement at a dealership. But what do you do when you've got 60% or more of the market that's not even buying an RV through the dealership? Well, that opened up a whole new arena. And with it came a whole new set of problems. And so what happens is we have some extended service agreement companies that are just now coming into the market, and they're looking for ways to take care of their risk. They want to put paper on these. They want to provide a policy, an extended service agreement. Some people call them a warranty, but truthfully they're an extended service agreement because there's no one that can put a warranty on an RV except the manufacturer. So once that warranty's gone out, so the year or 2 years, whatever it is, it's gone. So then you have to rely on what we call the extended service agreement. Those of you guys that have been at home inspections, you understand that. You've got extended service policies on homes. Well, the same thing here. So these extended service agreement companies are coming to us and said, look, I need somebody to put eyes on this thing. Make sure that this is the correct VIN, that this is the right vehicle that I'm putting paper on. Also, I need somebody to put eyes on it and maybe do some basic operational tests. Check the dipstick, make sure that the oil's good. Make sure there's cold air coming out the dash. Check the air conditioners, make sure the water heater fires up, and just basic little things. And many times it's only like a 2, maybe 3-page checklist with maybe 4 or 5 pictures. So that's a level 1 inspection. Now, level 2 inspection, this is a much more detailed inspection. It would be nothing unusual for an RV inspector to go out there and take 4, 5, maybe even 600 photos of an RV. Now the report may only need 75 to 100 of them, but they're out there taking photos, they're out there investigating, they're looking, checking to see if there's a propane leak, they're doing what we call the life safety issues, checking for hot skin, so if you get a hold of the door handle it doesn't electrocute you. Make sure that the LP detector is working so that way it can sniff for gas leaks and things like that. Make sure the emergency exit windows work, make sure there's a fire extinguisher in there. All these things come into play. So this is really a home inspection for an RV. Now on the motorized, they'll even go a step further and they'll do fluid analysis by basically doing blood work on the oil or the transmission fluid or the coolant, or if this unit's got a generator, they may pull oil samples on that, because what we're finding is that many times we can find a condition, the internal condition of that item, whether it's an engine or a transmission or the generator, just by pulling fluid samples. When we go back and look this last year, over 32% of the engines that we did fluid analysis on had some sort of mechanical issue with them. Now there may have been something as simple as, say, like maybe the fuel injectors were hanging up so they were spraying too much diesel and diluting the oil, but we had many of them that we found bearing material, piston material floating around that oil, telling us that engine's coming apart. And when you start looking at some of these big diesel pushers, it might be $20,000 or $30,000 to rebuild that engine. So, that's not the kind of problem people want to buy into. So level 1 is just basic, tell me what's going on. A level 2 is a much more in-depth. And so we're going to walk you through of different ways that you can pick up these skills and just parlay it with what you already know and what you're already doing. Because that's what was so attractive to us. When we sit down and started talking to Russell and say, look, we believe home inspectors have the skills and the talents and the abilities to pick this business up, and with minimum amount of a learning curve, they can take it and run with it. And so that's the whole principle where this is going from. Typically this level 1 inspection, this is going to be the most basic. We do have a very basic, simplified inspection form. Typically when you're going to go out and do an inspection for one of these extended service agreement companies, it's going to take you an hour, maybe 3 hours, particularly if you've got to do some driving. And usually it's going to pay you between $150 to $200, depending on if it's towable, which is a trailer, or a motorized unit, which is going to be like a motorhome. And some of the extended service agreement companies, if they need you to go a few miles, typically it's anything over 50 miles, they typically pay some mileage on that as well. So this is the most basic type of inspection. Now, in order to become an NRVIA certified level 1 inspector, doing work for the banks, doing work for the extended service, doing work for the lending institutions, there's 2 different ways that you can come into this experience. Now this is, like you say, this is the entry level. This is how everybody starts out here. It's kind of like going in the military, how everybody's going to go through basic training. Once they go through basic training, then they can accelerate and go in all different directions. And the same thing happens here with us. So what we've got is 2 tracks, 1 or 2 ways that you can come in and get your credentials. Because whether you do level 1 or level 2 inspections, everybody has to have the credentials, because this is to validate to the consumer, to the bank, to the extended service agreement company, that you understand how these RVs work. And you'd be surprised how many people we have come to us that have never done an inspection. And in a short period of time, we can get them up to speed. And that's the reason why we think with you as a home inspector, we can accelerate this process because of what you've already done and how familiar you are with some of the software that you're already dealing with HomeGauge. Okay? Now, the first track that we talk about is called what we call the training triad. Typically, this is a live class. It's 5 days, very intense, and it's what I call butts in the seat. But what I know about students is that, excuse me, we learn best with our hands. So not just sitting in the classroom, death by PowerPoint, but what we do is we coach you through and say, okay, now this is how these electrical systems work. Then let's go outside and we'll go through these RVs and we'll show you. Let you take this electrical panel box apart. Let you get in there to where the 12-volt fuses are. Let you look at these things so that way you can see how these 3 electrical systems interact with each other. how they're different, how they operate different pieces of equipment. So in any one class of maybe 20 to 25 people we may have in there, we may have some individuals that are there that are looking to possibly buy an RV. In other words, they don't even own one yet. So they're sitting there in the classroom learning how these RVs operate, kind of getting some of the tricks of the trade so that way before they buy, they know what they're looking for. And one of the things we always tell them is that they are probably going to be a salesman's worst nightmare, because what happens is they are going to be the one that's going to have more knowledge a lot of times than the inspector knows, or before the salesman knows. Now the next thing is that we may have some people in there that maybe going to be going to work for some campground, or maybe they're going to be operating their own little mobile service business. And this is what we call the RV maintenance for tech services. Now, these are the people that might travel around to a campground and do some work, or they may even be working at the campground, supporting that campground, helping them help the customers that come in and stay. And then there'll be some of you that will come and you're there to learn the basics of RV, so that way you can start your own inspection business. So in any one class, we could have a combination of all these different individuals there. Now, if you want to know more about that course, if you'll just go to the rvtechcourse.com, and that'll kind of give you an overview of what this course is if you want to really dig in. But let me show you what we cover. Now, in the first day, we're going to cover the 3 electrical systems. In the second day, we're going to cover electrical systems. And then we're going to show you how to use a bolt-on meter, how to use the test equipment to be able to check to see how things work. Because so much of these RVs are driven by electrical, whether it be battery voltage or happens to be the 120 volts that comes out of the, like the same stuff that comes out of our wall receptacle. So what we've found is that the quicker we can get you into the electrical, the quicker we can get you into that circuit breaker panel box inside that RV, the quicker we can get you into that fuse panel, the faster you learn. You have more of those aha moments. Because most of the students that come to us have got what we call these islands of knowledge. They've got a pretty good handle on this, got a handle on that. Maybe they were pretty good in, you know, handyman around the house, or they have maybe some construction background, or maybe they have been doing some things around homes and stuff. So a lot of that information carries over. And so what happens is we just start tying some of those loose ends together for you, building those bridges, so that way you have those aha moments. Then we're going to get into propane and water systems. Propane is the fuel source that we use predominantly on these RVs. And then, of course, the water systems. We've got wastewater and we've got fresh water. And then we get over into the appliances. Now, these refrigerators, the RV-style refrigerators, are a little bit different than what we're used to seeing in our brick and stick house, because that's what we call the McMansions that we live in. The RV refrigerator does not have a compressor. They're actually using some sort of heat source to boil a liquid, to create a gas, and then use that gas by cooling it down and sending it into that deep freeze or sending it into that refrigerator and have it extract heat out. Air conditioners. Basically what we've got on many of these RVs up on the roof, we've got what I would call a window unit, really. I mean, when you look at them, you think, man, this is a window unit all over again. But they're a little bit different than our brick and stick house because we don't have the ability to charge them with more Freon. These are kind of a self-contained, self-sealed unit, okay? And in those applications, we do hands-on labs because there's things you need to know about if you're doing inspections, what to look for, and see how this works. Then we get over to water heaters and furnaces. Here again, hands-on lab. Then we're going to talk about the exterior systems, things to look for. You know, how do these slide-outs work? How do you make these rooms come out like they do? Are they using hydraulics or using cable? Or are they using what we call a Swintex system? All of the above. Just depends on the manufacturer and how that one's made. So these are the things that we cover in that 5-day hands-on class, so that way people that are hands-on learners can get their hands on it. Now I have people come to me and say, well, Cooper, I'd really like to come to class, but I don't own an RV. We tell them, no problem. There'll be people in the class that will bring an RV, and usually what we'll do is we buddy up those people that don't have an RV with those that do have an RV. So that way you can work together. And it seems to work out real well because many times the buddy system seems to work best when you're in here taking things apart and being coached by how things are working. So these are just some of the photos of some of the folks we've had come through the program. We've been doing this for a little over 3 years now, and we've had a great deal of success. When we look back and look at all the people that have come through, Mr. Anderson and I were talking the other day, we have probably spent through this level 1 training triad a little over 700 students doing the same thing that we're talking about we're doing with you guys, coaching you, showing you. And some of these folks went off on their own, went and bought their own unit. Some of them went on and started their own mobile service, and some of them have come over and become inspectors. So there's all kinds of opportunity for you if this is something that even kind of tweaks your interest. Now for a level 1, here's what's involved. Now this is live, hands-on, not just sitting at the computer, not just trying to memorize things, but this is learning like most of us learn best with our hands. And so yes, we've got some written material, we've got some video material, classroom lecture, but there is an extensive hands-on training that comes with it. And there will be an exam at the end, you know, because we've got to validate that you have retained the material. And what I find is that most of us can put our hands on it, we remember it better. You'll get your certificate of completion. And then also this opens the door for you if you decide you want to go to the next level, to what we call the level 2 type training. Now some of the bonus material that comes with this program, this 5-day class that we're looking at here, you get your 1-year certification with the NRVIA. In other words, this gets you the credentials. In other words, you've got your membership, get you an ID card, those sort of things. So it's just another credential that you can carry and be able to show that, hey, I am continually training and learning. And so this course, like I say, is $1644, or we can do it in payments of $594. But basically, long and short of it is, it's a very intense 5-day class that we coach you through it. We bring you through there, and you're in the classroom with other folks. And what I find so many times, it's the networking that really does make the difference, because you'll be spending time with other folks. Because what happens is we'll start classes somewhere around about 7:30 in the morning, and many times we'll go past 6, 6:30, maybe even 7 o'clock in the evening, because we want to make sure that we understand and people have got this information. This is not just come in here and let's spit this machine stuff, shoot it out like machine guns, but this is information we want you to walk away that you've got. So if you want to know more about it, if you go to rvtechcourse.com. Now I'm going to send you, before we leave this afternoon, I'll show you to another link so we can get all this pulled together. But just realize there is a place that you can go. There are already classes set up that are already set across the country. We have others that are being developed. Now Bob and Sally, who are online with us, have committed that they will visit with you folks, and if they can find a group of students that in a certain area that they can do a class for, they'll come in and do a class specifically for you guys, which is kind of unique. So that way, you know, a minimum, I believe, of 7 students is what they need in order to make a class work. So if they had at least 7 students, they'll come in and put on a class for the 5 days, coach you guys through it, and get you up to speed. So that way, when you leave, you can do level 1 inspections. But sometimes life is just the way it is. You know, we can't always be there, can't always take off. We've got schedules, we've got a business to run. Well, we found that to be the situation with a lot of others as well. So what we have done is we have actually put a program together called Inspector Training in a Box. What we have done is over the last year, we have actually taken the time to actually have cameras in the classroom, and we have recorded these 5-day classes. And so what we have done here is now we have taken these 5-day classes and we've put them together in a packet so that way you can study at your own pace. Because we know that sometimes you may only have 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, not a problem. Well, pop this USB wafer in your computer, plug it in, load up your next course. Here's the booklets that come with it. What I have found is that if we give people not only the audio, not only if we give them homework assignments, but we also give them booklets so they can come back and study the material over and over again, the retention is so much greater, so much greater. Now, with this Inspector in the Box, it also gives you the 1-year certification with the NRVIA as well, because it would be of no value to you for you to get this education and you can't do something with it. And that's what we want to do, is we want to set you up to succeed with that. So for the level 1, now this is what we call track 2. It's the self-paced training. The course cost on that is $697, and it includes all the materials just like what you'd be getting if you were in the live class. Only thing is you're not breathing the same air as us. You just happen to be sitting in your pajamas there at the house, or maybe you're taking a lunch break between maybe some of your home inspections, and you can watch these off these wafers. You can watch these courses and see what you need to do. Now, not only will you be able to do the self-paced, but you'll also get the online coaching from Bob and Sally. They're available. They've committed to be part of the HomeGauge team. Bob and Sally were honestly the ones that introduced us to Russell. Bob and Sally had gone, I believe, up to a conference up in Wisconsin, to a home show up there, and they met Russell up there, and that's how this thing got started. And we began to see that he had software that worked or would work very, very well in our environment. And so Bob and Sally said, you know, we'd like to take it on, and let's go ahead and bring in some more of the inspectors, because they've already trained some of you home inspectors. They know what you guys are up against. They know that many times you are way, way far ahead in some areas. In some areas, we've got to bring you along and get you up to speed on the RV portion of it. But your home inspection skills will pay big, big dividends because of what you already know. And that's what we're after, is to get a hold of your skills and give you a chance to where you can make some money doing something else. Supplement what you're already doing, and maybe it might be you can go do a level 1 inspection on the way to some home inspection, or maybe you've got a break in the action to where you're at a slow time. Well, here's a chance for you. This works real well for firemen and policemen and people that have some blocks of time off, and then they're going to be gone for a while. So just keep that in mind, that this is an opportunity for you to expand what you're already doing. So in order to get level 1 inspections, in order to have that certification to do those level 1s, you can complete either a track 1 where you come and spend 5 days with us in a class, or you can do a track 2, which is inspector in the box. And so what that does is that sets you up to where you can then take a look and say, okay, what do I do now? Because maybe you say, you know what, I've got a pretty good handle on this level 1 stuff. I'm doing these things for these extended service agreement companies. I'm doing these inspections for these banks, these lending institutions. Well, there is the next level called level 2 inspections. Now, what we're looking at here, some of the memberships benefits that you're going to be able to have with being an NRVIA member. Of course, you got your certification. We're going to give you some technical training on RVs. And what I find so many times, you folks take these skills and can use them in other areas, because many of you already have RVs. Maybe you've got a travel trailer that you travel with your family. Well, here's your chance to where you can kind of take care of your own, kind of at least know what you're looking at. We'll help you. NRVIA, we have a directory that we feed business leads to you and referrals, because people contact us all the time. And in this directory, to locate an inspector, they put in the zip code and you pop up, and that way we'll send you that information. So that way, help you connect with some potential customers. Now, the advanced RV inspector training. Now, this is going to be the next level I want to show you. Now, here's where we're going to show you how we scope an RV. Just like you learned how to scope a home, we're going to show you how to scope an RV, how to do the evaluation on it. Now, HomeGauge, Russell and his team have put together, along with Bob and Sally, they all put their heads together, and they came up with some templates. And these templates fit right into the existing HomeGauge software that you're already using, except these units, these templates are built for the RV portion, for the RV world. And they were written that way so that way it would be easy enough for you to transition over. So let's take a look at this. Oh, before I forget, I had a person ask me the other day, and I want to make sure I mentioned it here. As far as state licensing requirements as an RV inspector, it's not required in any of the states. And so, I know that many times some of you folks are in certain states to where you've got to abide by certain state standards, because being from Texas, I know that they're extremely stringent. And as a matter of fact, they're so stringent they require the software to be built a certain way. It can only be certain things to be done. And there's no deviation from it. Well, because of the way the RV industry is set up, we don't have those same, I'll say, guidelines, strangleholds, restrictions that you guys have to deal with sometimes when you're doing home inspection. And so keep that in mind, because this will open some doors for you, so that way you don't have to be bound by some of those regulations. And maybe that's part of what's happened in the RV industry, and we've been able to benefit from it, because at a dealership you may have guys that are doing electrical work, they may be doing plumbing, maybe working propane, air conditioning, but in none of the states do they require those RV technicians to have certification with that state. So, and the good thing about it, because we are using the same standards that the RV industry uses, we don't have to come under that jurisdiction. Now, not to say that it won't change someday, and it could, but at this stage, this time right now. For those of you that are involved in RVing, you know that there's only 49 states in the United States that you can buy an RV in, and the one that you can't is Hawaii. So Alaska and the lower 48, we can buy RVs from, not so in Hawaii. So let's take a look at what level 2 inspections involve. Now this is where you're doing the inspection for the buyer, the seller, for the dealership. Now this is going to be a much more detailed, much more comprehensive type of inspection than what the level 1 was. Because we know the level 1 is going to be just basically, you know, for the VIN verification. Is this really the unit that we're looking at? Is this really the one that they're going to put the insurance policy on? Because that's really what an extended service agreement is. It's just an insurance policy. So what you've got here is we've got some folks that are with us. Now, for the ladies that we have online with us, let me encourage you to take a serious look at this RV inspection business. We actually have women that will contact us looking for women inspectors, specifically for ladies. And the reason being is they say, I want to deal with another woman because they understand better than anybody else what I'm going through. And even my wife tells me sometimes, she said, I don't like taking the car into the service center because I feel like they're talking down to me, like I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm hearing the same thing from some of the RV ladies. And so by having another lady to interact with, having another lady come and do the inspection for you, there is a, you know, there's a common goal, there's a commonness already between the two of you. And so we find, like this lady over here in the right-hand picture here, her name is Sue. Sue was actually a bookkeeper when she came to us, and she still does bookkeeping, but she and her husband, they happen to travel quite a bit, and so they decided while they were traveling, they would do inspections. Now when they go back home to California, and that's where their home base is, they do inspections in California. So, you know, Sue stays pretty busy doing this stuff. Now this gentleman right here on the left, his name is Dave, and he's out of Florida. Pretty sharp guy. He's retired. I think he had been a computer guy, actually worked on ATM machines. So he came to us because he already had an RV and wanted to know more about it, and got into it and said, you know what, I want to do inspections. And so that's what he does. Now level 2 inspections, people always ask me, well, what kind of money can I make? Well, truthfully, you got to look at the RV that you're going to be looking at, and what depth are you going to look at. So, I mean, everything from these little pop-up campers, you know, these little tent campers, depending on what part of the country you're in or what they call them, pop-outs, pop-ups, tent campers, that sort of thing. And most inspectors are going to pick up about $275, $300 to do an inspection, one of those. Now, you get over here to these big motorhomes, you know, we're talking $1,500 plus, depending on what kind of bells and whistles they have. And here again, it's not something you just pick up your clipboard and go out and go do. You need to know how they work. And so what we do is we have some advanced classes to show you what you're looking for, how all these different systems work, so that way, you know, you're not fumbling around, but you can come in, get the inspection done in a very methodical way, because these guys, Bob and Sally and some others, have designed some templates that match the software that HomeGauge has begun to pattern us with. And so that way you can go around and do your inspection with either a template, or you guys can use the companion, or you can just sit down with your computer and do it. But on the average, 3 to 8 hours to do an inspection is what it's going to take. You say, oh, 3 to 8 hours? Folks, these are very detailed. This is not just something you just blow in and blow out, because you're going to be checking what we call the delta. You're going to be checking the temperature of these air conditioners, making sure what the air going in, how it relates to the air coming out, checking for the difference in that temperature. You're going to check in the furnaces and the water heaters, the refrigerators, checking the electrical panel, checking for what we call life safety, you know, like we talked about earlier, propane leaks, make sure the propane detector. What's been amazing to us is how many of these LP or these propane detectors that we come across that somebody has cut the wires on. just to make that thing go quiet, because something happened, it started going off, and all of a sudden now somebody wakes up in the middle of the night and say, by golly, somebody's going to get some sleep around here, and they take the 2 screws out, pull that thing out of the wall, cut the wires, and stick it back in the wall. Well, so much for security, huh? So it's just like, a smoke detector, pulling out the 9-volt battery. Well, okay, you got a pretty smoke detector hanging on the ceiling, but it doesn't do you any good unless it's powered. And we're running into the same thing here with these RVs. So showing you what we're looking for, what the banks, the lending institutions are looking for, is the key to this advanced class. Now, this advanced inspector training is also a 5-day hands-on course. It just goes into so much more depth. We go into quite a bit more information as far as what to look for, and you actually literally go out and do inspections, literally do inspections. Because we're going to ask you to complete 2 inspection reports for us. One on what we call a towable, which is a travel trailer or a 5th wheel, and one on a motorhome. Because what we know is that if you can do inspections on those and turn in a report to your instructor, then you're going to be able to go out and do this yourself. Just like what you went through. Remember when you did your first inspection? You went out there all by yourself, how nervous you were? I mean, I remember it. I mean, not only am I a home inspector, but I've also got an insurance claims adjuster's license. I'm also, an RV inspector as well. I've gone out for banks and lending institutions and attorneys to do inspections on some of these RVs. And yeah, sometimes you're out there looking at it thinking, how does this thing work? But if somebody will coach you through it, you can do it. I promise you, you can do it. And like this gentleman right here, this, what he's looking at here, he's checking out a generator. The other gentleman in the right-hand picture here, now look at that snow around there. Isn't it amazing that people buy RVs in that kind of weather? But they do. We had one inspector last year that went out in a blizzard, and they wanted him to do an inspection. Got there, and we'll come to find out it was inside a building, so it wasn't a big deal. But these are the kind of things that you run into. Now, Bob and Sally are also putting together the advanced courses. They are heading that project up for us, so that way those of you that come through the track 1 or track 2 for the basic or the level 1 inspections, once you get through with that, if you want to go to the next level, they also are putting together the hands-on advanced classes. You'll hear them call it the Learn by Doing or the advanced classes, but basically what we're doing is we're traveling all over across the country, and they're doing these advanced classes because so many folks want to go on to the next level and can do more in-depth inspections as a level 2 inspector. Now, I'm going to encourage you to take a serious look at this. There's a need. You know how sometimes people say, well, I wish I had gotten in on that in the beginning. Oh man, if I'd have just done it. Well, tell you what, I've said that so many times in my life that where finally I just said, you know what, I'm going to pay better attention to it. I had a chance right after I got out of the military. My little brother told me, say, Cooper, come go with me, and we'll sit down and we'll take the heating and air conditioning license. And I don't want to do that. I don't. Basically, it wasn't that I didn't want to. I was afraid of it. Well, I talked myself out of it. He went on down, got his certification, and here in the state of Texas, within the last 5 years, 6 years, they have tightened it up so much in order to get your heating and air conditioning license. It's just a major nightmare. And I think back, here he is over here doing all this, and he took the same course that I was going to take. And my brother's not any smarter than I am, but he just took the initiative to go and take the class. He took the initiative to go take the exam. And I was talking to his son a while ago, and he was telling me that, yeah, Dad's doing this, and Dad's busy doing that. And I'm just thinking, Cooper, if you just ponied up and swallowed the fear and the anxiety and gone on and done it, you'd be sitting in the catbird seat right there. You'd be doing it. And that's what I want to encourage you. Sometimes we've got to step back and say, okay, what is it I'm really going after? What is it I want to do? What can I take what I already know and parlay it into something else? And that's really what we're looking at here. How can you take your current home inspection skills, your background, the thing that you've made so much investment in, and use it for something else, and not have to pour a lot of effort into it, not have to pour a lot of money into it, because you've already got most of the tools that you're going to need to do the things that you're doing home inspections for. You can use so many of the same tools, polarity testers and you know, multimeters. I know some of you guys have got those. You know, you're checking your air conditioners and so on. Things like this, you've already got all the equipment. So if you want to go track one and you want to take the live class, because if you're one of those people that does best by putting your hands on it, well then take a look at the rvtechcourse.com, because if you go to that website, you'll see what's available to you, what you can do, how you can take what you already know, what you're already doing, the thing that you're already familiar with, and parlay it into something else. Now, if you don't have the time to slip away for 5 days, that's okay. We have spent the last year putting together the RV inspector training in a box, because we knew after having so many conversations with folks like yourself that, you know, my schedule, I can't get away for another week. You know, I've got to spend time on vacation with my family, but I can do this a little bit at a time. And by having Bob and Sally there with you, coaching you, mentoring you, bringing you along, you can do this at a self-paced level. So either way, you have an opportunity that you can take what you're already doing and just parlay it into something else that will just basically piggyback on top of it. So keep that in mind, and I'm going to encourage you to send Steve Anderson some questions, some things we can talk about. I'm going to let Bob and Sally, if some questions come up, I may even let them answer it, so that way you can hear their voice and know who you're talking to. You've already seen their picture, but I want you to see who our points, who our contacts are going to be with NRVIA, with the HomeGage folks, because you need to know who can help you and who can take you and show you the pitfalls and how to get around and maneuver around all this. So with that being said, Mr. Anderson, do we have any questions or anything that we need to respond to?
Yes, I've responded to them, but I think it would be good to bring them up. Mr. Cooper, questions about locations for classes, and I think too maybe Bob and Sally could address that they have that flexibility where if we could get the student numbers, that there could be some flexibility in other classes that we don't even have scheduled yet. So I think if you could address that some more, as well as people wanting to know a little bit more about the advanced class as far as how they are scheduled, what the cost is, etc.
Okay, okay. Bob, Sally, let's see, right now you guys are what, down in South Texas, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Okay, trying to stay warm like some of us aren't, so so right now, let's see, you've got your next training class is going to be, where is it? Canton? Is that where you're going to be, outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Yeah, Canton, Texas in February.
Okay. So here's the thing. We were talking to Russell about this, and he said, Bob and Sally are prepared to, put on a class if we've got enough people in certain areas that they can go to. And so, if it's out on the Northeast, the East Coast, the West Coast, down through this heartland, and by that I mean Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, places like that, or even out further west. So they have some opportunities, and they basically are setting up their schedule now. Now, if you go over to the RV Tech course, you can see some classes that we have already put into play, and those will be ones that I'll be doing. But Bob and Sally, what we'd like to be able to do is that, well, maybe I'm out maybe doing some things down in Florida. Bob and Sally can be doing some training in other states. And then as we swing over towards Arizona and maybe start heading up towards California, that Bob and Sally can take care of the eastern seaboard or some other places like that. So were there anybody specifically, Mr. Anderson, that had some questions from certain parts of the country that they were looking at?
We had one gentleman who was asking about what was happening west of the Mississippi, and once I told him we were going to be in Arizona in April, he seemed to have interest in that.
Okay, okay. But here's the thing about it is that if you go over here to RV Tech course and you don't see something that it's for a date that works for you in your calendar, send us a note. Send it to the info@nrvia.org and let us know, where you're at, and that information will be sent to Bob and Sally, and because Bob and Sally have said that they would address that and maybe kind of start putting together a roster. Because folks, when we need 1,800 inspectors, that is no kidding. We actually have turned down so many inspections these last, I'm going to say, 90 days, just because we didn't have people in all the places we needed to have. And so, you know, it's kind of one of those things is that you strike while the iron is hot. You know, you jump in while you can, while there's opportunities. Okay, let's see. What else do we have, Mr. Anderson?
Well, again, more questions just coming in about locations and whether something could be done in Louisiana and so on. So I guess if Bob and Sally wanted to talk a little bit more about what they might be thinking about there or flexibility they have there, that might be good.
Let's see. Bob and Sally, you guys did some classes down in Louisiana and East Texas last year, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we got some great spots in Louisiana.
Okay. So I mean, you know, so there's some opportunity there, folks. Do us a favor. Those of you that are asking these kind of questions, you know, send a note to info@nrvia.org. You see the address there underneath Track 2 RV Inspection Training in a box. Well, that info@nrvia is how we're going to ask you to reach out to Bob and Sally and ask those specific kind of questions. Hey, I'm in such and such. Maybe I am Bossier City, or I am in, you know, down towards New Orleans, or wherever. You know, let them know so that way they can kind of start, because we've got to be a clearinghouse, and we felt like this would be the easiest way to do it, is to ask them to play point, so that way they could help gather everybody together. Let's see
we were
here.
in the process of planning our 2017 schedule for the classes. We wanted to make sure we got through the webinars for the home inspectors before we put anything solid into place. So even if you go to the RV Tech course and you don't see a course today, things will get added as we continue to make our plans for 2017. So that's not the entire schedule for 2017 yet.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah, you got, you know, some of the problems we run into is at this time of the year getting a hold of some campgrounds that are open. You know, many of them are closed down for the season, so you have to wait for everything to thaw out for them to come alive, and then that way Bob and Sally can kind of start putting some things together for us in those areas. But let's see here. I'm going to back up a slide here, I think. Okay, the advanced class. There had been a question, I think, on cost, Mr. Anderson. Is that right, for the advanced class?
That's correct. A couple other people have asked the same question.
Okay. On the advanced inspector class, here again, it's 5 days. That course, for those 5 days, that intense hands-on, and so much of it is so very deep into the hands-on, comes out to $1145. So what happens is we've got a lot of folks that are doing the inspector in the box type of training and then moving right on into the advanced class. And so that's the other thing. That's really kind of Bob and Sally's specialty. That's really how they cut their teeth on this business. After they started doing inspections, then we asked them to help us put together a program, and Bob and Sally and another couple put together the advanced classes. Because it's, well, I'll tell you what, Bob, why don't you go ahead, and Sally, why don't you go ahead and share with them what you guys go over in the advanced inspector training.
You want to take it, Sally, or you want me?
Sure, I can go ahead and take it. The first day we do a lot of overview of what you learned on the online course, or if you took the 5-day training to do all the repairs and learning the systems. So we kind of cover that to make sure that we all have like the right starting point. And then we go through and we talk about what it is to do an inspection. And we start, you know, kind of on the roof, and we walk around the outside of the RV, and then we talk about how we would test the different systems and what we look at on the outside of the refrigerator and the water heater and the furnace, all the things that are on the outside like the leveling systems, making sure we're checking those types of things. Tires is a big important safety issue on these things because when you blow a tire, you know, that's a huge risk factor for anybody that drives these. And then we come into the interior and we finish checking things out like air conditioning, Delta Ts, and testing the refrigerators and the internal appliances, as well as looking for any type of water damage on the interior that may have come in through the roof or vents or anything else, windows, bad seals, those types of things. So we really try to walk you step by step through in the details that we're looking for, and it's amazing how you will look at these things after you've gone through either the first set of training for the level 1 or the level 2 training. And then a lot of people enjoy going out to the RV dealers and looking at used RVs and be able to see if they can find where the circuit panel boxes are and all of the different things for being able to do their inspection. So it's a good kind of test playground to go see if you can find all those things at dealerships after you've gone through the training. And we encourage people to do that because that's how we all learn. So that's kind of what we go through in the class. Bob, you want to add anything?
Well, we also go into the scope sheets that we use so you can get familiar with those. We don't take our computers out on the inspections or anything like that. We can take our handhelds out there to use the companion or anything like that. But we go through the scoping. We go through the software. I know you home inspectors out there, you already got a feel for the software. With you guys, we'll just be kind of going over the new things that we've gotten into the HomeGage software. We'll also be going over some things for the home inspectors that have no idea what an RV really is. We're going to show them all the different options and different equipment out there that you're going to be looking at. And then on day 3, we actually go out and we start working. These RVs are your laboratory out there. For the next couple of days, we're going to be spent outdoors working on these RVs, scoping them out, and doing the life safety tests, like the LP leak test, the hot skin test, the delta T's, and things like that, until we finally work up to day 5 at graduation time. Anything else, Kelly?
Let's see here. You know, I know you guys are getting a crash course on this, but sometimes you need to hear from the folks that are doing the class. Now, there were some questions about insurance, you know, that you're going to need. Yes, general liability. I have a sneaking suspicion some of you already have insurance that will cover. If not, NRVIA has been able to go and get a pool pricing for inspections for RV inspectors, so we can kind of turn you on to that. And let's see, what else did we have, Mr. Anderson, that had been asked? Looks like Mr. Anderson had a whole bunch of questions. I was looking at his question bar. He's been a busy little fella here.
Well, many of them are similar in nature as far as location. I think you've hit the majority. They ask, at one interview, ask about the fluid sampling, if you wanted to share a little bit about that.
Okay. Bob Selly, you want to take that one? Because that's right down you guys' alley, because that's what you guys will do with the advanced class, isn't it?
Yes, we do a demo on anybody's rig out there. Actually, all of the students will be required to do 2 fluid samples, either on your tow vehicles or on your rigs, or if you don't have one, on your personal vehicle. Anything that you'll be able to demonstrate and show us that you can actually pull an oil sample, and we'll show you how to do it, and then we'll actually do it. We'll actually get your hands on. You won't get your hands dirty because we wear these latex gloves so that we don't get any oil on our hands or anything like that.
Let's see, then you guys package that sample up and send it off to one of the labs that we work with, either out of Indianapolis, Houston, or I believe Salt Lake City. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, yes. We don't do any of the analyzing ourselves. We just pull these samples into little 4-ounce cups, and then we pack them up and we send them off to the post office.
You know, what we find is that when we got started in this, I was looking at some of the different oil samplings that we could have, and there are so many guys that will do oil samples, but when it all boils down to it, it's just basics. It doesn't give you the details of what you really need. And so we sat down with this company called JG Lubricants. Now, the guy that runs that used to be the chief engineer for Allison Transmission. Now, this is the same guy that designed Transcend, which is the synthetic transmission fluid that they use in these Allison transmissions. And if you know much about these big old motorhomes, a little over 90% of these motorhomes are running up and down the highway are using Allison transmissions. So I mean, that's really kind of the transmission of choice, that whether you got a Freightliner or Spartan or some of these other big brands, they're typically running Allisons. And we asked Tom, I said, Tom, we need to be more involved. He said, what I need to do is put you together the advanced kits. So that way we can sample the oil, tell you what kind of viscosity it is, tell you what kind of, if it's breaking down or what kind of moisture's in it, but we also need to find out what type of metals are floating around in there. So he's very detailed in his report. And the reports that we get are color-coded based upon severity. Everything from a green to a cherry red, and of course, red being bad. And let me just tell you, I had a situation where I had one come in orange on a transmission here back in the summer. And it was amazing how I got him on the phone. I was talking to him. I said, Tom, why did all of a sudden this flash up? And he asked this simple question. He said, is there any chance you had this thing stuck, like stuck in the mud or someplace like that, and had to rock that engine and rock that vehicle to get it out? And I said, well, yeah, now that you mention, I did. He said, well, what you're picking up on in that transmission is magnesium, which happens to be the housing material for these Ford transmissions that you're running. And he said probably what happened is it sloughed off some of the metal that's holding those bearings. And he said, so he had me go ahead and send it. I took it in and had him drop the pan on that transmission, change the filter, put the pan back on and filled it back up with fluid. And he said, now drive it for 1,000 miles and let's pull another sample. Well, come back and it was good. So I kind of breathed a sigh of relief, but if I had just continued to go and all that trash was floating around, and imagine what it would have done inside that transmission. And so what we run into so many times with these individuals that are buying these units, they don't really know what's going on inside these engines or these trannies. And so when you guys are learning in this advanced class, what's going on, and you can actually give them a blood sample of that fluid. Makes all the difference in the world, because like we tell everybody, when you get ready to buy one of these units, you're going to make one of three decisions. Either it's everything that you were looking for, oh yeah, this is the perfect RV for us, we're going to enjoy it, we're going to go make some memories with our family, or two, Mr. Seller, we need to talk. Some things came back that we need to either have repaired, this is not working, or whatever. Or three, we're out of here. We've had all three happen, let me tell you. We've uncovered some fraud. We had a gentleman that was down in Florida that was selling RVs, and we got a call from a lady out of California. And the results of that inspection, like the lady told us, she said that was the best $795 I have ever spent, because she said I was going to be buying a one-way ticket out of LAX down to Florida, and I was going to pay full fare. He was also wanting me to send him $10,000. And she said, I just didn't feel comfortable with it. But we sent an inspector out there, and he put eyes on it, did the inspection, got the report to the lady, and told her that it really wasn't a unit that she wanted. It was bad. It was really bad. So these are the things that you will cover in the advanced class. And like I say, that's for most of you guys that are in the home inspection business, I suspect that's where you're going to want to go. You can use the level 1, and that might be somebody that's maybe has a shop that has multiple inspectors, and maybe you got some green inspectors that you're trying to bring along and develop. Somebody's got a multi-inspector shop. Well, maybe they could do the level 1, but I'm going to say by far most of you are going to be doing level 2 type of inspections, because you're already at level 2 for homes. So it only makes sense just to move you over into the RV business, show you how it works, what we need, and what these customers are asking for, and you'll take your skills and motor scooter right on into it. So, and that's the ideal thing to do, is to take what you already have and parlay onto it. All right, Mr. Anderson.
One of the nice things.
Go ahead, Sally. Go ahead, please.
One of the nice things about the home inspectors and working with the home inspectors is you've got a lot of the foundation already done for your business. You've already got usually a website, customer base that you're working with, trying to look for add-on services for them. As you drive around, this probably isn't a good time of year, but start paying attention as to how many RVs are parked either in storage lots or in people's yards, to know what kind of marketing that you have out there to those. And then what type of dealerships do you have in your area, banks and credit unions in your area, campgrounds that are in your area. Those are all new places that you can go and market to. So there's a lot that you have already in advance of starting a business. Like we've been working with a lot of people that are, kind of retiring or looking for a change in careers, and starting a business is much more difficult than just the small hop that you guys will need to do to add this as a service to the things that you already offer.
That is so true. I mean, because some of the inspectors you guys have already trained, that's where they came from, wasn't it? They already had the business in play.
Right.
Okay, I'm just kind of, we've got a lot of you folks that are reaching out here, Baton Rouge, New Jersey, Arizona. So here again, send us some information to info@nrvia.org. And so that way we can kind of put together a contact sheet so we can get back in touch with you. Because if we know where you are and we have others that can make up the class, then Bob and Sally said they'd be willing to come out that way. They were looking for a vacation. They're getting tired of sitting around because these guys are from Wisconsin. Who would want to be in Wisconsin right now? Whew, mercy. So, but anyway, don't mean to make fun. I've been up there. I've lived there, and I know it gets cold in the winter. No wonder they're wanting to be down South Texas. So get you guys some warmer climate here. Mr. Anderson, do we have anybody else that's asking questions we need to address?
No, I think you've done very well, Mr. Cooper. We've, I believe, addressed in general just about everything that's come in. They've been very prolific in their question asking.
Yeah. Let's see. Troy had asked a question if the advanced class is in a box. Troy, at this time, there's not. And the reason being is because it is so hands-on, and you really need somebody to be coaching you and showing you the difference between the home inspection and the RV inspection. So that's why it really does take a live class. And we've learned that, through the 3 years that we've been doing this. The individuals that took the time to go through an advanced class, their learning curve was so much shorter. They got in and were able to take care of customers. But some of the folks that came through the level 1 struggle trying to make it to level 2 unless you've got somebody showing you the ropes. It's just, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's hard. It really is, and it's very frustrating. Because I've had some guys that contact me and say, Cooper, I just wish I had gone and taken that 5-day class. I'd already be through with this. I wouldn't have wasted all the time and effort that I've gone through trying to learn it myself. So it's like everything else. Sometimes it's just better off to get somebody to show you the shortcuts, so that way you don't have to get hung up on the barbed wire fence as you're trying to crawl over it. So, alrighty. Mr. Russell, is there anything that you need or you would like to share with the group that we need to address? I don't know. He must have his button muted, huh? I guess, okay.
Mr. Cooper, here's another question that came in while we're waiting on Russell to find his mute button. David asks, is there any special tools that you need to do these types of inspections as compared to what we have as a home inspector?
Dave, really the only 2 tools that I see that most of the guys are coming to the table needing, the first one is what we call a manometer, which is basically a propane gas leak tester. And most of the inspectors are buying them off of like Amazon. I think they're costing like between 50 and 60 bucks. So that's not a big ticket at all. And that's something that we show you how to use in the basic class, the level 1 class. But then also when you get to the advanced class with Bob and Sally, they will coach you through it and make sure that you know how to use it there as well. The other device is a multimeter, and we recommend that you buy an amp clamp. And you can buy these amp clamps that you can check for AC and DC volts, as well as checking for how much current flow. We'll also, in the basic class, we'll show you how to use it. And most of the multimeters that we're looking at here are not that expensive. I think Sears is selling them for less than 100 bucks. I was at Lowe's the other day, and they've got one for, I think, like $92. And so when you sign up for these classes, we send you a tool list. But everything else is pretty standard what you guys already have. Like the polarity testers, that has a little GFCI test button on it, screwdrivers, Phillips head, flat blade, pliers, just the basic kind of tools, because we're not taking things apart. As deep as we'll go is maybe take the cover off of the circuit breaker panel box. And then you'll take maybe 2 screws out of the LP detector to check the born date on the back of it, because these LP detectors have a life on them. It's usually 60 months or 5 years. And so, you know, that's really about the extent of it. So we're not talking about a serious type of tool list, because most of you guys have already got more than what you need. When you start pulling fluid analysis, you know, there are some pumps that you'll buy, but we buy them at cost. Bob, Sally, do you remember what JG Lubricants charging for those fluid pumps?
Not right off. I don't know, it's about $38 or something like that a piece.
It's less than $50, isn't it? So I mean, so what they do is they recommend that you get one a coolant and one for oil, and
yeah, you get and a sample kit. Sample kit, I guess, I believe is another $38, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And
right.
Now that's something else that you might keep in mind, is that we have some individuals that will go out and do an inspection for someone and then stay in touch with that customer and go back and do fluid analysis, because what we're finding is that many times people are changing their oil in their RV when that thing can go quite a bit longer, because the oil analysis will tell you everything you need to know about that oil. And so we have a lot of the guys that are actually doing oil analysis and fluid analysis on these RVs after they even, after they have done the inspection. And so they'll go out there and, pull samples, make $100, $200, send the samples in, and go from there. Had one guy tell me, he said, yep, that's his left front pocket money. So, because he said, I love getting paid cash. Okay, let's see here. Let's see, Jonathan said he's using a TIF 8800 gas detector. Jonathan, the gas detector is good, but what happens is the RV industry requires us to do a pressure test. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to put this manometer, remove a burner on the cooktop and apply that manometer on one of the burners. So that way you can do a time test. It's you do it for 8 inches of water column for 5 minutes, and that way you can check. Now that gas sniffer, that's perfect kind of stuff if you're going to be, in our world, if you're going to be doing technical work, because sometimes that's the only way you can find those leaks, is to have those really good sensors, those detectors like what you've got there. Let's see here, marketing training. TJ, those of you that come to the live classes, as well as the inspectors in the box, we actually have some business training that Mr. Anderson does. And what happens is Mr. Anderson, in the first hour and a half of every morning, he'll go into business and talk about different things, and he's going to introduce you to a gentleman by the name of Mark Kohler, who's not only an attorney but he's an accountant. Can show you some tips and tricks. I can just tell you from my own personal, Kohler saved me some serious money just by setting a business up correctly. I was doing it all wrong, and won't even go into the detail of it, but like I say, so there's some things there, there's some marketing that gets done. So that's the good thing about those level 1 type training classes. We do that. I do know that in the advanced class that Bob and Sally do, there is a lot of marketing that's discussed. There's a lot of risk management that's talked about, because, let's face it, we've got to be aware of stuff. And they coach you through that, and that's part of what they do in those classes with you, in that advanced class that they do. So
we've got a lot of tips for marketing, things that other inspectors have shared with us. So we share them in all the classes. A lot of marketing doesn't even cost you a dime to do. Then there is some that might cost you a little bit to get into a newspaper or something like that. We share that in the classes as well.
See, that's what I like about this industry, and I've seen it the same thing in the home industry, the networking that you can do. Because let's say, like for the basic class, say we've got 20 people in that class, what we will do is in 5 days you will have a chance to get to know them, introduce yourself to them, because we'll have some potluck dinners and do some different get-togethers. And what will happen by the 5th day, you'll have some really good connections. And we also have a roster that we pass around. Everybody puts their information on it, and if they want to share that information with the other inspectors, then we make sure that they get it. Everybody gets a copy of it, because invariably you're going to be out there working on something or doing an inspection somewhere, and you're thinking, oh, what was it I remember hearing about that? And sometimes you just need to talk to somebody and let them coach you through. Say, oh yeah, remember we talked about, or or sometimes just them asking you simple little questions. Sparks an idea. Oh yeah, I forgot to check that. So it's almost like a fraternity. We need to look after one another, and I've seen it over and over again. I'll hear from some guys say, oh yeah, I've been talking to Jonathan, or I've been talking to TJ, and we were talking about this and this, and he was sharing with me his situation. We have a term we call the purple monkey. And purple monkey is just nothing more than a thing that's kind of gone wrong. It's gone screwy, gone backwards on you, a lot of confusion, and sometimes you need some help, somebody to kind of coach you through that purple monkey and bump him off your shoulder and, hey, it wasn't that bad. So, okay, Mr. Russell, are you with us yet, sir? I don't know if you put yourself on mute or not. I guess he's got himself muted down. Mr. Anderson, is there anything we need to cover? Any other questions have come in?
No, I think you've hit them all.
Okay. Well, let's do a quick review, and then we'll close things down. So, track 1, that's for the level 1 type of inspections. You can take a 5-day hands-on class. Just go to rvtechcourse.com, and that shows you the current list. There's more. And so, if you need some information, or say, hey, I'm in Louisiana, or I'm in New Jersey, or wherever, or Arizona, well, here, or North Carolina, or wherever, let us know where you're at, and we'll see if we can't put together a class. Or those of you that maybe can't take off for 5 days and can do the studying on your own, well, take a look at the track 2, that RV Inspector Training in a Box. And to sign up for that or to get information on it, just go to info@nrvia.org. So as you've already tell, info@nrvia.org is that is the way to get a hold of us. So that way we can answer questions and help you with it. And those of you that want to move on to the level 2, so that way you can do the more advanced inspections. That's where Bob and Sally will work with you and coach you through it and mentor you through it. So here again, let us know where you're at. We'll see if we can't get you into some classes and get you guys up to speed, because guys, this is serious stuff. Here's an opportunity for you to take what you're already doing and parlay it into something that can take you further down the road. So with that being said, I want to bid everyone good night, and I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you out on the highway.